Devotees, welcome all of you. So, thank you for joining this session. And I hope that for the next 1 hour, you'll get something very interesting from this session. So, today's session is going to be very interesting and relevant at the same time. So, let me tell you the topic is life lessons from Ramayana. Okay, how many of you are excited to learn some life lessons from Ramayana? Type me in the chat. Type me in the chat. All right. Okay, so here we go. We'll start now. Something very interesting. We'll hear some very nice pastimes of Lord Ramchandra. All right, so here we go. Okay, so here is the life lessons from Ramayana. So first of all, let us talk about challenges. So what are the kind of challenges that we face in life? So can I hear from all of you? Like, what are the challenges that we face in life? Yeah, can you type it in the chat? What are the challenges that we face in the life? I've generalized some challenges and I've put it here. Okay, let me read it out. Anybody put here? Uncertainty, health. Okay, different challenges at different age groups. That's right. Okay. Peace of mind, problems. All right. Relationship issues, inferiority complex, insecurity. All right. Competition in all activities. Okay. Nice. I've taken some challenges and then I've seen like what are the examples that we can take from Ramayana and how Lord Ramchandra demonstrated exemplary values from that. So let's start with the challenge number one. The first challenge is dealing with adversity. See, the problem is um, not everything is planned, right? So there's a saying that says that uh, you don't plan difficulties, but yet they are there. Nobody plans difficulties. Nobody likes to plan their difficulties, but yet they are always there. So adversities are a part of life for everybody. So it's a world of duality. So adversities are always there. So what is it that we can learn from these adversities, or what are some of the examples from Ramayana where there was some kind of an adverse situation and where Lord Ramchandra displayed an exemplary character in the face of an adversity? Let's just see that. So let us talk about the first pastime, that is Lord Ramachandra's exile. So what is the context of Lord Ramachandra's exile? So Lord Rama was the prince, or he was supposed to be get incarnated. I mean, he coronated. That is, he was the crown prince of Ayodhya. And the next day was his coronation ceremony, right? It's called Pattabhisheka. So then what happens overnight? Everything changes, things change. And then Dasharatha Maharaj is asked by his wife Kaikeyi to exile Lord Ramchandra to forest. That's the boon number one. And the boon number two is that Bharat should become the king of Ayodhya. So Lord Ramchandra, in terms of that adversity, he kept very calm. At that time, he did not revolt or rebel. So as a Kshatriya, he could have. So it's quite possible. He was quite competent to rebel against his own father and fight against him. And against his will, he could have become the king. That would have been very easy, but he did not do that. So he just chose to face the adversity in a proper way. So what's the second one? So Sita's abduction. So there is another adversity that happened, right? So what happened? So Lord Ramachandra here accepted the exile as something beyond control, like Daiva. Daiva means something which is beyond our control. There are some things which are in our control, there are some things which are not. Am I right? The things which are not in our control, it's called Daiva or Adrishta, or that is under the purview of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, here Lord Ramchandra is himself the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is playing a leela or a pastime for us to understand how we must be acting in terms of adversity. The second adversity that happened was far more worse than the first one. The first one was only about giving up the kingdom, which was easy for Lord Ramachandra, but the second one was very difficult because Sita was very dear to Lord Ramachandra, right? And so this was when Sita Devi asked for a golden deer. We all know the story that Sita Devi asked for a golden deer, and then Lord Ramchandra was apprehensive, and even Lakshmana already warned that deer is not actually a deer; it's actually a demon, somebody in the disguise of a deer. So Lord Ramchandra wants Sita Devi to be careful, but despite of all the care that they try to take, Marichi successfully distracted Rama and Lakshmana both by imitating the voice of Lord Ramachandra and Sita, forcing Lakshmana to go out. And Sita was not protected there, and then Ravana, abducted her. And Lord Ramachandra and Lakshmana, when they came back to their ashram, their worst fears came true. They could see that Lord Sita Devi was no longer there. So that was like a very big adversity because already Lord Ramchandra is in exile for 14 years, and it's almost like the 13th year. And it's just like one more year to go, and it's like the worst thing that's happening now. So if things like this happen to us in our life, it would be very, very depressing. Just think about it for a moment, right? So already in a very big problem, and that problem is about to end, and there comes a bigger problem, much bigger problem, right? And again, for Lord Ramchandra also, it's very humiliating because how will he go back to Ayodhya without Sita, right? And everybody would even mock at Lord Ramachandra that, of course, and Sita Devi was very dear to him. So he could not even imagine separation from her. So what are the lessons? So I want to hear from you. So what do we learn from this? Anybody can say? What can we learn from these examples? Anybody unmute and say?
Tolerance, Prabhuji.
Tolerance. Okay. What else? Quick, one word.
Problem never stop coming.
Yeah. Problems don't stop coming. You have to face them, right? So there's no other way than to face it. We just have to face the problems, right? So you have to develop resilience and courage. So it's important that in life we have to be resilient. So
Endurance
problems,
also, Prabhu.
yes, sorry,
Endurance also.
endurance, resilience,
Stay equipoised.
being equipoised, right? In amidst difficulties, there is always dualities, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but you have to stay equipoised and just keep going. All right. So this next point. So another important, interesting lesson that Lord Ramchandra demonstrated is that he sought support from others. So, for example, he had collaborated with Sugriva. Am I right? So he took the help of Sugriva, and then he fought the war, and he took help of Hanuman. So like that, he collaborated. So it's important that when we are in difficulties, we should not be alone. How many of you got that point? So don't be alone. Okay, seek support from others. There are always people who are ready to help. You just have to seek help when you're in trouble. Make sense? Okay, type MS in the chat if it makes sense to you. Let's go to the next problem. So making difficult choices. So life is always like this, that you have to make choices, and sometimes we delay these choices. That's also another choice. To not choose is also a choice. Am I right? But there are always choices, and if there is a very clear winner, it's easy to choose. But if there is no clear winner, then it becomes a problem, especially when you're making some very tough decisions like, you know, changing the city. Like, you're changing from where you're staying. Maybe you decided that you'll stay in a different city where you don't have anybody, for example. That's a difficult choice. So, or maybe you chose to resign from a company where you're working for a long time. Okay, that's a difficult choice. Or there can be much more difficult choices also in life, like somebody is struggling for life and for example, in COVID time, okay, there was a very limited medical support, right? Then there was a lack of beds, right? And then literally they had to choose who is going to live, who's going to get the bed. So sometimes they had to make that kind of decisions based on their discretion. They made some decisions that, okay, we will let this person take this bed, etc. So these are all difficult choices to make, right? So yeah, what are the examples of some difficult choices that were made in Ramayana? Can anybody say? Can you think of some difficult choices?
Yeah, accepting to go to forest was
Accepting to go
difficult.
to the forest. Yeah, okay, that was a very difficult choice. What else? Let's see. Vibhishana, he was the younger brother of Ravana, but he clearly knew that Ravana was not on the side of Dharma. It was obviously not because he was against Lord Ramachandra, and Ramachandra is the source of Dharma. Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma. And Dharma, the religious principles are based on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These Vedas are actually an incarnation of the Lord. And these all the Dharma or the religious principles are given by Lord. And he is himself exemplifying them. He's showing, demonstrating to us, even though he's beyond this Dharma, he's beyond all these rules and regulations of this material world, he is showing to us how to follow Dharma. Now, somebody can ask, why should I follow Dharma? Why should I not, you know, follow adharma, which is more convenient for me? So, what would be the answer for that? Can anybody tell me why should we follow dharma? Why should we follow dharma?
That's the only way to achieve moksha.
Okay, that's an interesting answer. It's the only way to achieve moksha, liberation, salvation. All right. What else? What will happen if we rebel against dharma?
More karma.
Yeah, you will get more karma. You will be implicated with karma. Okay, Renuka Mataji.
Always we should dharma. If you go to in the path of dharma, you may go to Godhead, back to Godhead. That's what I think. Because
Yeah,
dharma is always wrong. Wrong path going is also wrong.
yeah,
If we are on
that's
the
right.
right path, then Krishna will help us definitely.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So it's like this. Okay. Uh, let's say you violate the signal and the traffic police catches you. You have two
Hmm.
choices: whether to pay the penalty there or run away from the policeman. Which choice will you take? Right? So what will happen if you run away from there?
They
Suddenly
finally catch us. It's like
it's going to become more worse if you fight with the policeman. Am I right? So we see that some people physically even try to assault the policeman. So it becomes a bigger offense. It could have been cleared simply. So in the material world, we have to follow the rules of the material world, and we just have to. It is better because it's better to tolerate and take that punishment rather than aggravating the situation. Okay, so that's why it's important. So Vibhishana decision to give up Ravana was very clear because Ravana was not ready to hear to the wise counsel of Vibhishana. Vibhishana was the younger brother of Ravana, but he was not at all like Ravana or Kumbhakarna. He was divine in nature, and he was the devotee of Lord Ramachandra, and he had a very clear distinction about what is dharma and what is not. So right from beginning, he was trying to warn Ravana to give up this sinful activity of abducting somebody else's wife, and especially Sita Devi, right, who is Lakshmi herself. But then Ravana did not listen, and Ravana further aggravated the situation, and he was not ready for the truce as well with Lord Ramachandra, and he insulted Vibhishana, and Vibhishana had no choice but to give up Ravana. So it was a very difficult choice to make. Let's see some another example of a difficult choice made. So Sita Devi's choice to accompany Lord Ramachandra. How many of you think that it was a very difficult choice for her? I mean, what is the difficulty? What is the difficulty? Anybody can say? Accompanying Lord Ramachandra to the forest?
No servant have to do everything on
No
own
comfort. No
That's
comfort.
right.
She was a queen and she has to go
That's right.
in
She
a
was a
forest.
queen, right? She was a queen. She was a queen. And she was a queen, right? And so she's not used to doing any kind of menial work. Maybe she was, but not to that level that you go to a forest and do that kind of austerities without even wearing slippers and going and facing wild animals. And I mean, just imagine yourself if you're going to some forest and living there for a couple of days. Also, it's going to be very difficult, right? You won't get water, you won't get food. It's not so easy, right? So her choice, she could have stayed back in the palace, but then she says to Lord Ramachandra that if I come with you, I'll be happy. So that is my dharma. So I will come. So whether it is, even though Lord Ramachandra says you can stay back, it's not necessary that you need to come. But then Sita Devi says that it is actually dharma of the wife to accompany the husband in every situation. So Sita Devi is exemplifying that dharma. So the lessons learned. What's the lesson that we can learn? Anybody can say what's the lesson that we can learn from uh, making difficult choices? From what is the lesson that we can learn from Vibhishana? What is the lesson that we can learn from Sita for us in our lives?
Um,
You should be firm on dharma.
Yeah. Okay. You should be firm on dharma. And okay. Anyone?
No compromise on dharma, Prabhuji.
Yeah. You should not be. Yeah. Don't compromise on dharma because there's even a verse called Dharmo Rakshati Rakshitaha. That means if you protect dharma, dharma will protect you. And if we violate dharma, dharma will violate us. So we will be caused problem actually if we violate dharma. So it's very important to violate, to be following that. So that is, in simple words, we have to prioritize values and principles. So we should have some set of values. So we should have some kind of a value system, and we should live by that system. So come whatever may, we should not compromise these values, the core values and the principles of our life. We should not compromise. If this simple thing everybody learns, the world would be a completely different place, isn't it? If people did not compromise on the good values that they have, on the good principles that they have, the world would have been a different place. How many of you agree to that? Type me in the chat. Okay, so that was about making difficult choices. Now it's about overcoming temptations. So this is going to be a tough one. Temptations are there all around us, different kinds of temptations. The temptations can be with respect to the opposite gender, the temptation can be with respect to money, temptation can be some kind of a quick win, etc. There are always temptations, right? That can lure us towards taking the wrong action, right? So let us see some examples from Ramayana and how Lord Rama resisted Surpanaka's advances. So Surpanaka, you see in the Vanvas, she comes and she disguises herself like a beautiful woman, and she proposes to Lord Ramachandra that she would like to marry him. Surpanaka uh, is actually a demon, and she's the sister of Ravana. And many people do not know that Surpanaka's husband was killed by Ravana in a fit of rage in some war or some kind of situation. Surpanaka's husband was actually killed by Ravana. So sometimes some people, some foolish Instagram people, they say that we want Ravana as brother. So he's not a great brother because he killed Surpanaka's husband for the information. So Lord Ramchandra, very clearly, he was actually not at all interested in Surpanaka. Absolutely, he was not interested. And we all know that, he says, why don't you marry Lakshmana? He says in a playful, joking way. And then Lakshmana, he says, no, not me. if you're going to marry me, you're going to become another servant. I am a servant of Lord Rama, and you'll become my servant. So you'll become a servant of his servant. It's better you marry the master. So he sends her to Lord Rama. So like that, it happens, and suddenly she becomes a little angry, and then she's about to attack Sita Devi, and then Lord Ramachandra says that cut her nose. So that's important. So another thing is, like, we have to learn from the character of Surpanaka that women also should not be like Surpanaka, like loose charactered, like, right? So like Surpanaka, one should not be. Let's see another one. Sita rejection of Ravana's proposals. Sita was abducted by Ravana. Am I right? Sita was abducted by Ravana, and then Sita also says, Ravana also says very clearly that, you see, right now I am the supreme ruler of the universe. There's nobody who has been able to defeat me, right? And he has got the boons. I've got boons from Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. That nobody can defeat me in the 14 worlds. That is the boon that he got from Lord Brahma. That except for human beings and Vanaras, ape men, nobody can defeat Ravana. So he defeated Indra, he defeated all the demigods. And he is now the king of Lanka, the golden Lanka. And he's also the owner of the Pushpaka Vimana, right? That Vimana actually belongs to his brother, half brother, Kubera. So he defeats Kubera and he takes that also. So he says, there's no better choice for you. He's telling to Sita that you're in a very pathetic situation right now. It's very simple. Just make a simple choice. Anyways, like Lord Ramchandra is not the king anymore, right? He doesn't have any kingdom. Am I right? He's poor man now. I mean, at least that's what he says. Of course, Lord Ramachandra is full of six opulences. We know that, but he's projecting that way that he doesn't have any kingdom right now, right? So, and after the exile, he's going to go back, and he's not going to get the kingdom back. There's no possibility. And who knows, he might have even died also in your separation. Even if he's not dead, maybe Bharata will kill him. Who knows? Or I will kill him. So there's no possibility for him to be as opulent as I am. So this is a very tempting proposal, but Sita was very clear that, this is like overcoming temptations, right? So what are the lessons that we can learn from this? Anybody? What lesson can we learn?
There are no two ways about when it comes to, fidelity and what do you call, towards your husband. I'm not getting the right word, Prabhuji. Your sincerity to your husband, there are no two ways about it. It's just one man life. That's it. Or one woman life.
That's right. Okay.
Pativrata.
Pativrata. Okay. What else?
Dharma path.
Dharma
Prabhuji.
and pap. Yeah, consideration of sinful reactions, right? Yeah, dharma, consideration of sinful reactions. Let's see this. First thing is to cultivate self-control and self-awareness. First of all, to be able to control the lusty desires, to be able to say no to offers which are not in line with religious principles, right? Which actually violate the fundamental values and principles of our life. And to consider dharma to be more important than artha and kama. So what is dharma? Dharma is religious principles. Artha means economic development. Kama is sense gratification. So here Ravana was embodying artha and kama. That means he was like very opulent king of the golden Lanka. And he was, of course, he was like very, very powerful man. So he could be very good at sense gratification as well. But dharma is very important than artha and kama. So in our life, we should be able to make this distinction that, religious principles are important than economic consideration or sense gratification. So that's how you can overcome temptations. Let's see the lesson number 4. Managing relationships. Okay. So this is definitely one of the problems that our modern society is facing, that people are struggling to manage the relationships, different relationships, even the relationships with one's own family, one's own brothers, one's own sisters, friends, spouse, everyone. So relationships at work, everywhere there is problem. Am I right? So let's see some of the problems and some of the exemplary situations from Ramayana where we can learn something. So here is one example. Lord Ramachandra's relationship with his brothers. So Lord Rama, uh, his father is Dashrath Maharaj. And how many wives did Dashrath Maharaj have? Anybody can say?
350 plus 3.
Yeah, that's right. He had many, many wives, and out of them, three were prominent. That is Kaushalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumantra. Am I right? So, um, but then these brothers, right? They exemplify the relationship of a brother, even though they were not born, they were born the same father but different mothers. Shatrughna and Bharata were born to the same mother, but am I right? Did I mistake? Was it a mistake?
No, Prabhuji, Bharata is
Yeah,
born to Kaikeyi.
correct. I'm sorry. Yes. Bharata born to Kaikeyi, and Sumantra, for Sumantra it is Lakshmana and Shatrughna. That's correct. Lakshmana and Shatrughna were the sons of Sumantra.
So, Prabhuji, she's not Sumantra, she's
Sumitra.
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 Sorry.
Mitra.
Thank you very much. So Sumitra Devi. So, but then see, these brothers were so perfectly, aligned with each other. So they didn't have any problems with each other. See, I'll tell you a real problem. So we may feel like, so what is so special about these four brothers being good brothers? It's so easy. But I tell you, they're not coming from an ordinary family, all right? It's a royal family, right? So the stakes are very high. That means if one of them is eliminated, the other can become the emperor of the world. It's like that. So the stakes are high and the temptations are also very high. It's pretty easy for anybody, to compromise on these values, brotherly relationship. That's what happening in the Kali Yuga, am I right? So petty fights, property fights, and people fight with each other. They don't talk to each other. There's no brotherly relationship. The elder brother is not acting like an elder brother, and the younger brothers are also behaving in a very envious manner. So we have a very beautiful lesson from Ramayana, that how to handle the relationships. We need to cultivate real relationships. So we have to cultivate. I mean, we should actually invest in relationship. It's called, you have to invest in relationship. Invest means it's not money. It's about investing your faith, investing your love, investing everything in the relationship. Of course, without expectation. Again, it's very much possible that the other person may not reciprocate. Very much possible. But from our side, we should be clean. Should try to be having real relationships, right? Yeah, nurture relationships. That's the right word. That's nice. Okay, so let's get to the next lesson: finding a purpose, finding a higher purpose, finding out what's your purpose and what's the meaning of life. So we are having this challenge right now. So we don't know what to prioritize and when to prioritize what. So we see a lot of people, we hear the stories that there are some people who go to the foreign lands for better career and prospects, etc. And they don't return. That's fine. That's their choice. But they don't return even when their parents are sick or something like that. They don't even return when their parents die also. So now, if you ask them why don't you come, they say that for me, career is very important. So we have to know like what is the actual purpose of life, and what is the priority, and you should know, you should be able to discriminate between what is right and what's wrong. See, so let's see some examples from Ramayana. So Lord Ramachandra's duty to fulfill his father's promise, right? So that is very important, because he had to fulfill his father's promise. His father was a king. He's a king himself, and the king has given a promise. So it's like a royal promise, isn't it? See the promise, yeah. And people of Kali Yuga and people of Satya Yuga, there's a lot of difference, I understand. Promise once given means it's given, that's it. The word given is given. It's not supposed to be changed. So for that sake, the people of the previous bygone ages, they were even ready to give up their life also, right? If they give the word, that's it, that's final. Just like, Shibi Chakravarti, there was a hunter who was trying to catch a pigeon, and the pigeon comes and takes the shelter of Shibi Chakravarti. Shibi Chakravarti gives a word that, tell me what you want in return for this pigeon. And he says, I just want some flesh. Okay, what flesh? I want your flesh. Okay, I'll give it. And then he puts the pigeon on the one side of the balance, and then he starts cutting his own flesh and he puts. But how much ever flesh he puts, the counter is not still balanced. The pigeon is still heavy. So ultimately, he almost like kills himself, to give away everything just for keeping his word, right? So these are some of the values that we should keep. Promise, right? Fulfilling the promise. Promise is also like promise to a spiritual master, for example. We make a promise to the spiritual master that, dear spiritual master, I shall chant these many rounds of mantra. I shall do this, I shall do that. So we promise to the spiritual master, right, that we shall do these kind of devotional activities. But if we fail that, and that's not good. Am I right? So we should not fail upon our promises, right? So this is a very beautiful lesson that we can learn, right? We should know what's our purpose and who we are, what's our role. So if we are a disciple of a guru, of a spiritual master, our role is that, we have to fulfill our promise. Here, Lord Ramachandra is the son of Dashrath Maharaj, and he's ready to fulfill his promise of Dashrath Maharaj. Sita's devotion towards Lord Ramachandra. So no matter what happened, Sita was always devoted to Lord Ramachandra. In all the kind of adverse situations also, Sita was very much devoted to Lord Ramachandra. So that is, she knew exactly, what is her role and why she should be so much devoted to Lord. So align your actions with purpose. So first of all, we should have a purpose, and we should know the higher principles of dharma. We should first of all understand what is dharma, what is the religious principles, and what are the prescribed duties that I'm supposed to be performing as a son, as a husband, as a wife, or as a father, or as a friend, as a relative. We have got a duty. As a citizen, we have got a duty. But I tell you something very interesting. Srimad Bhagavatam says the real friend is one who actually reminds the other person about his spiritual life, who is able to give liberation to the other friend. So if you're a friend, you are a real friend if you can make your friends liberated. A real father is one who can give liberation to his children. A real mother is one who can teach how to become liberated in life, right? So this is like the real purpose. So we should actually understand what's our real purpose of life and meaning of life and stick to that. Let's go to the point number 6. Coping with change and uncertainty. So this is a world of duality, and this is a world, it's a dynamic world. Okay, how many of you agree to that? Okay, type dynamic in the chat. Dynamic and static. So static means something which is always remaining constant, right? But we're living in a dynamic world. Things are changing. This is 2024. Am I right? So the inflation is increasing. The city map is changing. And global warming is changing. The political environment is changing. Our body is changing. Everything is changing. Actually, nothing is constant. There's only one thing that is constant. That is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the spiritual world. Except that, yeah, and our spirit soul within us, that remains constant. Everything else is changing. That's why it's called Jagat. Jagat means Chayate Gachyate iti Jagat. That means something which passes, something that which doesn't remain static. Jagat means it just keeps moving. Okay, it doesn't remain static. So change is definitely going to happen. So change is a necessary component of our life. And so we should be willing to be able to adapt to that change and to be willing to adapt to that uncertainty. But the problem is we're not very well prepared for this change. So we are actually thinking that everything will, we always talk about settlement, right? We always keep hearing this word. When do you want to settle? Actually, the thing is, there's no way to settle in the material world. Because even if you settle, the material world will unsettle you. How many of you got what I'm saying? Type unsettle in the chat. That means you might think that, okay, I shall do this. You can put some plan. Okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But then something else will happen. Completely opposite of what you have planned. Very much possible. So that's what keeps happening. So we should be ready for this kind of changes. Let's see some examples. So this Ramayana is actually Lord Ramachandra's Leela. Lord Ramachandra is the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead from the spiritual world. And he himself is showing the nature of the material world for us to understand that how difficult it is to be staying in the material world. Right? And Lord Ramchandra is infallible. He can come across everything and he can, overcome. But we may not be able to overcome unless we catch the lotus feet of Lord Ramachandra. So here is the example. Lord Rama's journey through the forest, right, of the Dandakaranya. So he passed through the forest of Dandakaranya, and there were so many difficulties. Like there were some demons who had come, and then the Karadushana had attacked Lord Ramachandra, and Lord Ramachandra single-handedly killed the brothers Khara and Dushana along with the army of 14,000 warriors. Right. So there were so many challenges that were he faced in the forest, right? So this is actually showing what kind of changes will happen. So it's not that they thought, okay, now let's go to this forest resort, and we will happily relax here. That didn't happen actually, right? There was always some change and uncertainty that was happening. Hanuman's challenges in finding Sita. Can anybody tell me what were Hanuman's challenges in finding Sita? What were Hanuman's challenges?
That Mayank Parvat disturbed him.
Yeah, Mayank. Yeah, yes. What was the disturbance?
No, he kind of tempted him to take a break and relax, which he didn't, of course, didn't want that kind of a break because he was focused on his goal without what do you call, I'm not getting again the right word, without hurting the Mayank Parvat. He very gently crossed him, and then there was this that was a snake with what was that Rakshas? She opened her mouth and challenged him with she wanted to actually eat him up, but as she opened her mouth, Hanuman increased his size, and when he just went in and came out, when she opened her mouth even wider than his size, he became a small, like a mosquito, and he went in and came out.
Yeah, that's right.
That was the other challenge.
What's the next
Name
challenge?
starts with S. I'm forgetting the name.
Anybody?
Mm-hmm.
No problem. Okay. What about the next challenge? What is the next one? Hanuman went there.
Then he had to kill that Rakshashi who he met on
Lankini.
in Sri Lanka.
Yeah, Lankini, right?
Lankini.
That's right. And then afterwards, what happened? Did he find Sita? He was not able to find Sita, right? So he was searching for Sita everywhere, but then he went inside the quarters of Ravana, and then he saw Mandodari, and he mistook Mandodari to be Sita for some time. And then later he repented that he wrongly underestimated Sita Devi, that she would be in the private quarters of Ravana. That's right. And later he finds Sita Devi, and then he was arrested by Ravana, and then he fights with all the people there, and then he sets fire to the Lanka, and then he comes back. So so many things are happening. Just can you imagine how many things have changed, right? Hanuman's journey to find Sita, how dynamic was that? isn't it? You see? So what is the lesson that we can learn? To be adaptable, right? So actually our life is like that. Okay. Hanuman's challenge in finding Sita, Hanuman actually underwent so many challenges, right? So one after the other, there was obstacles. The first is it was like a temptation, right? Before even starting the work, there's a temptation. Similarly, when we start our goal, even before we start our work, our mobile phones, our friend will call, right? And some, things keep changing, right? Yeah. Yeah, so we should be adaptable to the situation, right? So we should be adaptable. Anybody, any more lessons that we can take from this situations? What else can we learn from this?
Vyavasayatmika buddhi.
Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kuru nandana. Right? Bahushaka hi anantascha buddhayo vyavasayina. That's right. So we should keep a single pointed focus towards the Supreme Lord. Then our activities will become successful. Even in our life also, we should have a central point. The central point is the Supreme Personality of God. The central point is to satisfy God. This should be the ultimate purpose of our life. Because it is said that the success of life is to satisfy God. That's why it's called Samsiddhi Haritosha. Obviously, if God is satisfied, that means we have done good job. We should try to satisfy God. So that should be the central point of our life. Every activity that we do, we should question ourselves whether this activity will please the Lord or not. It's a simple question. So we should always keep Lord in the center. So that's called yoga. That's the yoga. So we should work in yoga. That is in God consciousness. And we should be just like how Hanuman was fixed in his goals, right? His main goal was to satisfy Lord Ramachandra. So that's why every activity that he did was successful also. Similarly, in our life also, whatever endeavor that we do, whatever principles, whatever duties that we do, our focus should be to satisfy God. And we should be, then we can learn adaptability and also we'll be finding victory also. Let's go to the last lesson. Balancing personal and professional life. What does that mean? What is that? So very relevant problem today, right? So that's also called as a work-life balance. Sometimes we call it a work-life balance. Sometimes we get. So what are we going to do? Like just like how Arjuna was confused whether to fight or not, because he was fighting against his own family. So he's professionally he's a warrior, but the problem here is that his own cousins are fighting against him. His own teacher is against him. His own grandfather is against him. Whether he should fight or not, he's confused. He doesn't know what to do now, right? So, just think of Sarpanch, where his son is guilty. Now, whether this Sarpanch should give the correct judgment or compromise the judgment, right? Or change something. So, these are some of the values, right? So, personal and professional life. So, what do you think a person should be doing? Should be compromised, yes or no? Personal biases, personal things, personal friendships, should they affect our professional or not? Yes or no? What do you think?
No compromise, Prabhuji.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like I was just remembering one story. One of my Professor Sadagopan, okay, he used to tell one story that when he was a teacher in IIT Kanpur, his student was his roommate. All right. So his student was his roommate, and at the end of the semester, when he got grades, the friend that roommate was like upset, and he said, "Why did you give me? Why did you give me the best grade? Okay, why did you give me this grade? I'm your roommate. I'm your friend." Right? He said, "You're my friend. You're my roommate. That's fine, but you have to earn your grades." How many of you got what I'm saying? Right? You didn't properly do it. I mean, these were the marks. I fairly evaluated you and I gave you these marks. Right? So that's like Being professional when it is supposed when you're supposed to be professional, right? Don't mix your personal life and professional life and mix everything, right? Just like Arjuna, he was confused whether he should fight or not, right? So that's confusion. So let's see some examples. Yeah, Bharata's role as a king and a brother. Okay, Bharata had a challenge. Everybody thinks that Bharata maybe he doesn't have any challenge. No, absolutely, he was actually the person who was most troubled in Ramayana was Bharata, not Bharata. The reason is he could not imagine himself as a king ever. He could only see Lord Ramchandra to be the king. He never ever imagined that he wants to become the king. Okay, he was a younger brother and he didn't want to become the king. But then there was no other option to become the king because Lord Ramchandra is exiled and he must become the king now. Otherwise, because without a king, everybody will, there'll be a lot of chaos. He has to be the king. So now he has to finally balance it, how he is going to be the king, and yet he wants his brother to come back and rule the kingdom. So if he becomes the king right now, I'll tell you what happens. Let's say Bharat Maharaj accepts the kingdom, then Lord Ramachandra may not be ready to become the king next, as per the rule. It is like, I don't know how to explain this, but it's like the younger has already become the king, and now the elder cannot come and sit in his place, something like that. So Lord Ramchandra would say, "You be the king." That's it. Even though you want me to become the king, I'm not going to become the king. So it was a very confusing situation for Bharata. So what he did? Anybody can tell me what did he do? How did he balance the situation?
Bharat took the padukas of Sri Ramchandra and put on the Sinhasan.
Yeah, he took the padukas of Sri Ramchandra and put on the Singhasan. That he said, "I'm not the king. I'm the servant of the king." And the king of this Ayodhya and king of the Koshala Desh is actually Lord Ramachandra's slippers. So that means it's Lord Ramachandra himself. It's not me. I'm just the caretaker. And he never sat even on that throne until Lord Ramachandra came back as per his promise given to Bharat Maharaj. Right? So that's what we have to learn, like how to balance, our duty, how to balance your duty and personal choices. Personal choices are always there. I mean, I like something, I dislike something, I like this person, I don't like this person. You may like, you may not like, but there is something called as dharma, right? It's something that you're supposed to be doing. So we must know what is it. That is what is a prescribed duty. That's the prescribed duty. That's what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Am I right? Prescribed duties. You should know what are your prescribed duties, and you should act as per the prescribed duties, and you must not compromise on the prescribed duties, no matter what. Because of the personal biases, personal likes and dislikes, we must not be compromising. If we don't compromise and if we stick to this prescribed duties, then we will be gradually purified. Then we will be elevating ourselves. But the moment we compromise, we will start becoming degrading. It becomes, sinful degradation. Sita's role as a queen and a wife. She very well knew that she was not only wife of Lord Ramachandra, but she was the queen of Ayodhya as well. So she was very well aware of the situation after she came back, that there were some people who were talking rumors about her. And she had a duty also as a queen that she should not be having any kind of blemish on her, even though she's like spotless, right? She's Lakshmi herself, right? She's the internal associate of Lord, right? She's the mother of the whole world, but yet she knows her duty as a queen, and she knows her duty as a wife, and so that's why she was ready to accept the fate of whatever Lord Ramchandra said. She was ready to accept what he said. She did not rebel against that because she very well understood her prescribed duties. She was very clear on that. So, what are the lessons that we can take from this? Prioritize and balance. So, in our life, we should learn to prioritize. We should learn to discriminate between the good and bad. We should learn to balance, right? Work life balance. That's why we call it work life balance. We have work, we have life. What is important? Both are important, but what's more important? Yeah. Can we unmute and say what's more important? Work or life? Very tricky question.
Life.
How many of you think that work is more important? Type work in the chat.
Life is important.
Okay, how many of you think that life is very important? Type me in the chat. Okay. Okay, I'll type work in the chat. If you think work is important, type work. If you think life is important, type life. Let's see who's gonna say what. Life is important. Life is important. Okay. We see people life. Yeah. Life is important. Yeah. Life is important because human form of life is very rare to come, right? It's very rare. It's a rare opportunity to serve the Supreme Personality of God. We cannot serve the Supreme Lord in animal body. Am I right? In human body only we can serve. We can do dharma. Dharmena hina pashubi samana. Means if without dharma, then human being is equal to an animal. Ahara nidra bhayamaitunam cha. That means eating, mating, sleeping, defending, even animals do. But human beings can do dharma. Dharma is religious principles, and beyond that is God consciousness. Right? To be able to revive our relationship with God is like the ultimate duty that we should remember that whatever work that we are doing, very important verse, whatever work that we do ultimately has to culminate in our attraction towards hearing the stories of God. In hearing about God, to understand more about God, our attraction should increase. That is the purpose of all the work that has been given by God. The purpose of the duty is that all the duties I spoke about, the duty of a father, the duty of a brother, duty of a son, duty of a wife, duty of a husband, so many duties. What is the purpose of all these duties? The purpose of all the duty, dharma, is for Vishvaksena Kathasuyat Rati. That means to get attraction towards the stories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To get attraction towards devotional service is the actual culmination for or the actual purpose behind the Lord creating all these very strict duties. We cannot forget the main point. If you forget the main point and do everything, then it's a sidetrack. How many of you are getting what I'm saying? Right? So the ultimate point is that we should do religious principles, dharma, and the topmost dharma. The topmost dharma is to be serving the Supreme Personality of God in devotional service. That's the topmost dharma. Let's conclude some quick lessons from this. So, what are the lessons that we can learn? The first point is adherence to dharma, right? Dharma. Now, what's dharma? Anybody can ask, like, what's dharma? So, like, now, of course, like a lot of people are debating these days that this is man-made scriptures. Who wrote Ramayana? Who knows? Who wrote the Vedas? Who knows? You people wrote it. Maybe some people who are having some vested interests, they wrote it. No, that's not true. This dharma, this Veda is not written by human beings. It is Aparushaya. And this dharma is given by the Supreme Lord himself. It's called Dharmam tu Sakshat Bhagavat Pranito. Supreme Lord can decide what is dharma. See, a set of 10 people or 10 intelligent people or a team of 20 people cannot create or manufacture law, dharma, because human beings have defects. They're defective in judgment. We do not understand the bigger picture. We don't even know what happens to a person after death. So, with such limited knowledge, we cannot manufacture dharma. So, only Krishna can give the dharma, only God can give dharma. And these principles have been codified in all the Shastras, and it is all consistently given in all the Dharma Shastras, all the Smritis, in all the Vedas, it is very clearly given. And even if you have a doubt whether it's correct or not, then that's why we have Itihasa, Mahabharata, and Ramayana. We have the story of all the exemplary characters of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and we have the Supreme Personality of God Himself, Lord Ramachandra, enacting. Sita Devi and Rama are enacting Dharma and showing to us. Then where is the question that whether this Dharma is correct or wrong, whether it is not subject to our evaluation. Okay, it is like evaluating a medicine. You see, let's say there's a patient who is like suffering from a disease, right? And there's a doctor who is capable of curing that disease. Let's say there's only one doctor, and there's only one medicine that the doctor has, and we don't have any other choice but to believe that doctor and take that medicine. There is no other choice. So the choice is either take the medicine and get cured, or rebel against it and lose life. It's as simple as that. So this is a medicine. This is a medicine for us. Dharma is a medicine for us. It's not a poison. Okay, it's good. It's like poison in the beginning, but it is nectar towards the end. Bhagavad Gita, you remember the three types of happiness: poison in the beginning, nectar in the end; poison in the beginning, poison in the end; and what is it? Nectar in the beginning, poison in the end. Following dharma is difficult, right? Getting up early in the morning, doing chanting rounds, Hare Krishna, all of this is difficult, but then the end result is very sweet. So we must stick to dharma. We must stick to the topmost religious principles. We should understand the higher purpose of life. Cultivate ethical values. Should not be ready to compromise on the values. So we should live a value-based life. Should live a life based on values. We should not be like living a compromised, valueless life, which is only focused on one thing: money. Okay, that should not be the goal. Okay, then if all of the characters of Ramayana were only focused on becoming rich and were only bothered about usurping the kingdom, we would not be talking about them today in this class right now, about all these wonderful people, all the wonderful personalities. Am I right? So values over everything. Pursue knowledge and wisdom. Why do we need knowledge and wisdom? Can anybody tell me quickly, in the context of all the problems and challenges that I said, why do we need knowledge? What happens if I don't have knowledge?
Prabhuji, I just felt one thing is when situation arises where we have to compromise, during that time the knowledge helps is what I felt. It makes our faith stronger. When we know completely what it is and how it is, everything, the faith becomes very stronger, and there will be very less compromise situation. We don't compromise easily, is what I felt.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's nice to analyze. Somebody else is saying, yeah. When you have knowledge, yeah, you have discrimination, you have judgment, you know what's right and what's wrong. When you have knowledge, you know why things are happening to you, right? Just like, for example, a knowledgeable mechanic knows what to do when the engine is seized, right? A knowledgeable mechanic knows what to do when the tire is punctured. Am I right? So, but somebody without any knowledge would maybe even lament or cry that why did this happen? Why did the engine fail? The mechanic would immediately say, nothing to bother, it's simple, it's normal. After so many years, this is gone, that's normal. Am I right? Are you understanding what I'm saying? But the person who has no knowledge, he will be suffering, lamenting, feeling bad, etc. So similarly, the knowledge about the material world, about our life, about our relationships, about the temporary nature of this material world, the suffering that is there in this material world is given in the Shastra, scriptures. So if you know these scriptures, if you understand the temporary nature of life and understand the difference between body and soul, then our suffering will reduce a lot. Our suffering, when we undergo difficult circumstances, we immediately understand that, okay, this is my karma. Okay, this is one of my past activities, because I've done everything from my side to avoid this, but I am undergoing this difficulty. So that means it's my karma. So let me accept it and see what I can do to overcome it without compromising my values. That should be the idea. So that gives you a lot of peace of mind. Okay, that will save you a lot of tension and worry, etc., etc. So ultimate point is devote yourself to the supreme personality of Godhead. So the examples of Lakshmana, Bharat Maharaj, Sita Devi, and Hanuman, and Sugriva, and Vibhishana, all of them are serving one personality, that is Lord Ramachandra. So Lord Ramachandra is the center of Ramayana, right? And doesn't matter. There are so many difficulties that they got. That's fine. I mean, Sugriva was thrown out of his kingdom, and his wife was also taken by his elder brother. Vibhishana was kicked out. Okay, and Sita Devi was abducted. Okay, and Lakshmana had to undergo a lot of difficulties in the forest, right? Bharat Maharaj had to hear so many accusations, right? And Kaikeyi, underwent some temptations, and Kaushalya had to suffer the separation from his from her son. Dasharath Maharaj also had to suffer the separation of and the to be having to give a punishment to his very dear son. So all this happened, okay, but there's only just one single thread. The single thread is devotion to the Supreme Lord. Okay, this is the most important point. You see, we should cultivate. If we can cultivate this one single thing, everything else will fall in place. Everything else will fall in place when you'll get the knowledge, your value system will be right, your adherence of dharma will be fine, all the dualities of life you'll easily overcome all of that, right? So that's why you see, let me just close with this final verse which says from Bhagavad Gita, ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana parvipasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamya, right? So that means that those who are always remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? They are personally protected by the Lord Himself, right? And also there is another verse in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, "Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati." A very beautiful verse. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. That means, O son of Kunti, Arjuna, declare boldly that my devotee never perishes. That means ultimately a devotee will never be destroyed. I mean, destruction is not the destruction of the body, destruction of anything. I mean, in a higher sense, that a devotee will go back to Godhead. I mean, he'll be attaining the ultimate success of life. A devotee will attain, whether it is materially or spiritually. In every ways, when somebody is surrendering to God and doing the devotional service, he will never perish. It's a promise of the Lord that declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. Kaunteya pratijanihi, pratignya. We all know the word pratignya, promise. So we say God promise. This is God's promise. It's not God promise. It's God's promise that name bhakta pranashyati. The devotee never perishes. Okay. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much for joining. So I would just like to hear from you, like what is it that you learned from today's session? Hare Krishna. Your takeaway points. Who wants to go? Okay, let me call you. Amrita Mataji, what did you learn from today's session? Is that here? Let me see. Shrija Mataji, what did you learn today?
We should always follow our principles, Prabhuji, and we should have self-control and always follow Krishna consciousness.
Okay, that's nice. Thank you. Yes, Kalyani Mataji, what did you learn today?
The topic being Rama and his qualities, we have to try to emulate all his qualities, starting from all Prabhuji, sacrifice, truthfulness, then patience, respecting the elders, dharma, following dharma, then taking help of Hanuman. All the qualities that Rama had, we have to try to emulate Prabhuji, and all the other characters also, like Sitama, Hanuman, Lakshmana, and not be like Ravana, not be like the demons. We have to try to cultivate all the Devi qualities and shed all the demonic qualities.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for adding that. Who wants
Thank
to
you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Ganga and Prabhu, what did you learn today? Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam.
Yes,
The
Prabhu.
Ramayana itself is incarnation of Rama, is to teach the values of human beings to the human beings. So therefore, the high values of the, so as Mataji said, so much different characters and all, how they led and all completely. It is a great lesson to us how to live or honestly and differently we have to live our life. That is what we have concluded.
That's nice. Thank you for that. Indra Haridas Mataji, you want to say something?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
How to making difficult choices.
Making difficult choices. How to make difficult choices based on values.
From Ramayana, Vibhishna's decision. Then to give up Ravana. Then again, Sita's choice to accompany Lord Rama.
Right.
He's the devout one.
Thank you.
Overcoming temptation of that.
Overcome? Sorry?
Overcoming temptation.
Overcoming temptation. That's right. Overcoming temptations. Right. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yes, Manisha Mataji, you want to say something? Nitya Mataji, what did you learn?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvat Pranam.
Yeah, Pranam.
Prabhuji, today's class, lot of takeaways from today's class, Prabhuji. That is, lot of takeaways from today's class, and it is very everything we face in life, Prabhuji, temptations, everything. But we have to take. But one thing is the solution for all this thing is what you said is right. That is, if we practice Krishna consciousness, or if we devote our time and energy, everything to in the service of Lord, everything will fall into place, and we will. So the solution is there in thing, and we just have to follow, and I'll do my best to follow. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Naresh Prabhu and Vallabh. Yes.
My takeaway is we need a knowledge of the Dharma, because the Dharma is been around. People are still talking about Dharma, but the real knowledge about what is the pure Dharma is missing in many contexts. So one should actually learn the knowledge of Dharma and then follow the Dharma. By following the Dharma itself, it's serving the Lord, actually. So that is my takeaway.
Yeah, that's a very nice point. Actually, that's a very nice point because when we follow this dharma, it's actually worship of the Lord. It is said, right? The worship of Lord Vishnu is by following dharma. When you are following dharma, it is inconvenient, but it is the worship of the Lord. So that pleases God, actually. That's the important point. That's nice. Yes. Who wants to go next? Valarmati Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Today's my takeaway is the Ramayana emphasized the importance of Dharma and the rightness. And Lord Rama embodied Dharma and the principles even though he faced with adversity. And this Ramayana teaches to uphold moral values and rightness in our life, I guess. That's what today's takeaway from Ramayana. Thank you. And then one of my friend joins today. Her name is Devika. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Devika Mataji. Welcome to the class. Hare Krishna. So can I ask Devika Mataji, what did you learn today? Hare Krishna, welcome to the class.
Hare Krishna Guruji. This is first day of my class. Ramayana itself, I didn't read the Ramayana fully. So today I have read, but a few things only, not a full story. So after today's class, I think it's better for me to read the Ramayana first, because there are a lot of values in the Ramayana which we should learn. If we read the Ramayana itself, we can learn many values for our life. And from today's today's class, I got to know. Before this, I know what I just know Dharma is there, but I don't know what is Dharma and what is all about Dharma. I learned today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Keep coming to the class. Very happy to have you in our class. Thank you.
I'm also happy to join the class.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay.
Thank you. Yes, Renuka Mataji, you want to say something? Manisha Mataji. And Jay, who is Jay? Okay. All right. So then let's stop here. And thank you very much for a patient hearing. We'll see you again day after tomorrow. So Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare
So
Krishna.
much.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.